You ever feel like you're banging your head up against a wall with someone who just absolutely refuses to make sense? Let me tell you, that's not an accident, especially if you're dealing with a covert narcissist. Covert narcissists have a whole playbook of tactics designed to end up making you feel absolutely crazy. But the good news is that when you learn the tactics, you begin to realize that you're not the crazy one in all of this, despite what the narcissist would like you to believe. So let's break down 7 of the covert narcissist's crazy-making tactics that leave you feeling like you've lost touch with reality. My name is Christina, and I help people make sense of the madness after emotionally abusive relationships. And if you're feeling stuck after a relationship like this, take my free quiz to help you figure out why. There's a link for that in the description. So the first tactic I want to talk about is basic gaslighting. And I want to cover this first because it's a broad term that really describes the entire crazy-making strategy. But what we're talking about here specifically is when they'll outright tell you that what you saw or even felt was wrong. So they'll deny or contradict your lived experience, saying things like, "You imagined that," or "Oh, you're just overreacting." And over time, when this happens gradually, they get you to distrust your own judgment and perception. The narcissists seem so confident while insisting that their false narratives are fact and that you're just too paranoid or too sensitive. They may also isolate you from friends and family who would otherwise validate your experiences. So over time, the narcissist becomes the sole reflection of your reality. But that reflection is incredibly distorted. And bit by bit, your sense of self and your sense of truth erodes. If you can identify that that's what you're dealing with, first and foremost, do whatever you can to stay grounded in your perspective. Don't let their gaslighting define your reality. You can also start keeping records so that you can fact check things on your own. And if you're wondering what this feels like to be in, here's a comment that really illustrates what gaslighting and relationships with narcissists can do in general. Yeah, I definitely don't trust myself to judge whether someone's safe. It's the worst because it's still affecting my life. Making friends or dating now is like the scariest thing in the world. So once you've been gaslit for so long, you really lose connection with trusting yourself. And while people say time heals all, time alone definitely isn't going to fix this, because time alone does not help you reconnect with your sense of self and rebuild that self-trust that you so desperately need to rebuild. These are things that you have to consciously do on your own. So now let's talk about one of the most infuriating of all of the crazy-making tactics, and that is what I'm going to call here verbal gymnastics. You'll often also hear this referred to as narcissistic word salad. And this describes what happens when the narcissist throws a bunch of random things into the conversation that have nothing to do with the point you're trying to make. It's like they've got a salad spinner in their brain and whatever comes out just comes out. What they're saying, it usually makes sense as a sentence, right? But it makes no sense in the context of the conversation. And they'll go on about nonsense for so long that you'll forget what your point was to begin with. And this can make you feel like you're the problem, like you can't follow a simple conversation. And the narcissist will be happy to let you believe that. So now let's look at a couple of comments that really encapsulate what it feels like to deal with this word salad or these verbal gymnastics. And there's no beating around the bush here. One commenter says, "Word salad is what I call argumentative whack-a-mole." So ain't that the truth? Every time you feel like you're getting somewhere, something else pops up that you feel like you have to knock down. And here's another comment. "I got triggered just hearing the term word salad. This was the main technique of my ex. It drove me up a wall and kept me in the dark about finances, so I'd be under his control." So when you start to break down this tactic, sometimes it can seem silly or humorous because a lot of it is just gibberish. But when you dig deeper into why the narcissist uses word salad, it's a lot more sinister. Usually they're trying to hide something or avoid accountability. And these are not always small things that they're trying to hide or cover up. So I'm going to throw in one more comment for good measure. Word salad is like banging your head against a brick wall. Unless you experience it, you won't know. And that's very true. If you haven't experienced it, you won't fully understand. And if you have, even hearing about it can be a little triggering. So I'm sorry for that. But for those of you who are just learning about these tactics, it's really important to expose them for what they are, so that you know that you're not the crazy one. And really, the point of this video and calling out these tactics is to let you know that if you're dealing with this, if you can identify that the person you're with is using these tactics against you, it's not you. You don't need proof. You don't need their validation. And you don't need them to admit what they're doing. Simply recognizing these tactics is enough. That right there is your validation. So next up is the never-ending argument. And in one video, I think I actually referred to this as a circular argument, but the circular argument is actually only one type of never-ending loop. And you'll know when you're in it because the entirety of the argument is really just the argument repeated. And that's what they call circular reasoning, which leads to a circular argument. So for example, you know I'm not lying because I'm always honest. So when we break this down, the proof that you're not lying can't be that you don't lie. That's not proof, and it's only going to send you in circles. And like I said, circular reasoning and circular arguments are only one tactic that really lead to this never-ending argument. So in addition to circular reasoning, you'll also usually find other logical fallacies like straw man arguments, hasty generalizations, and false analogies. I go in depth on all types of those tactics in a video that I'll link to in the card and the description. But essentially, for now, we can say that never-ending arguments feel very much like verbal competitions, where the narcissist is trying to win at all costs. There's no genuine give and take or accountability. The only goal for the narcissist is winning. And afterwards, you're left wondering what you could have said or done differently. You might ruminate for days or even months on how to explain yourself better, or how to finally get this person to see what seems as clear as the nose on their face. But no matter what you say, the result is the same. And if you can relate to what I'm saying here, here's a comment that's even more relatable. OMG, the circular argument. Before I knew what covert narcissism was, I called that kind of arguing the Jedi mind F technique. And honestly, that's a pretty good description. So now moving along, we can't talk about crazy making behavior without talking about the faux apology. What we're talking about here is the fake apology. And I want to be clear, not all narcissists will apologize. But when they do, you can bet it's fake. But the problem with it is that it does feel real. And it seems sincere. And that can make you feel like, again, you're banging your head against a wall when the same problem keeps coming up. Because if they understood why that problem was wrong, why their behavior was wrong, why do they keep repeating it? And the answer is because they weren't sorry to begin with, because they didn't take any real sense of accountability. And so one common example of a faux apology is, I'm sorry you got so upset. And you see how that makes it about you being too sensitive instead of them doing something wrong. And here's another example from a viewer. I'm sorry for the incident that occurred. So you notice how there's no accountability. They're not saying, I'm sorry for what I did. They're just saying sorry for something that happened. It's all smoke and mirrors. So here's another tactic that will absolutely make you feel like you're going crazy. And that is that their actions rarely align with their words. So one minute they're pouring on the charm and they're telling you how much you mean to them. And the next, their actions tell a completely different story. So maybe they ditch you, or they treat you like an option, or they just outright neglect your needs. And it's the same with narcissistic parents too. So they may claim that their children are their world, but then they mistreat or neglect them. So one commenter summed it up perfectly. One of the hardest lessons I've had to learn in life is to listen to what people say, but more importantly, watch what they do. So another one of the narcissist's favorite crazy-making behaviors is blame shifting. Narcissists shift blame basically to protect their overinflated egos, because admitting flaws would shatter their perfect image. So they pin it on you instead. And let's be real, this also serves as a manipulation tactic, because when you feel guilty, you're easier to control. And more than even just blame, they'll also project their insecurities onto you. If they feel insecure about something, they'll accuse you of it. In their mind, they're always right and you're always wrong. So here's a powerful comment on blame shifting. The pathological lying, the blame shifting, the defensiveness over asking her anything. These people live in a delusional reality. They make stuff up in their minds and then they believe it as truth. How dare anyone question it? And this commenter sums it up really well, and it's so true. They absolutely drink their own Kool-Aid, and that's why they seem so convincing. They actually believe everything they're saying. So another crazy-making behavior of the covert narcissist is how they can almost flip personalities on a dime. And this is what a lot of people refer to as the Jekyll and Hyde personality. And this is based on the story, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. In the story, kind and friendly Dr. Jekyll takes a secret potion and turns into Mr. Hyde, who's cruel and evil. Both personalities exist in the same person, and you can't be sure which one you're going to get. Does that sound familiar at all? I bet it does, because one minute the narcissist is charming and makes you feel special, and then without warning, their tone changes, and they become vicious over minor slights. It's incredibly unpredictable. And this hot and cold manipulation creates an addictive trauma bond because despite the abuse, the draw of Dr. Jekyll's kindness sucks you back in. And here's a comment from someone who obviously lived through it. Such truth in this video, and so much that I see and go through with my partner. One minute he's talking, and the next I say the wrong thing and boom, he's off on a tizzy. He's had this personality for a long time and is so nice to everyone else. But I have to watch what I say and when I say it. And that highlights another common theme, a public-facing persona that looks completely different than the private one. To the world, they're kind and generous. Behind closed doors, they're cold-hearted and cruel. So now I'm going to throw in one more bonus tactic, and that is what I'm calling the mask of modesty. And if you've seen it, I think you know what I mean. This is exactly what makes covert narcissists so dangerous. You believe that they're sincere, kind, and deep down good people. But in most cases, nothing could be further from the truth. And if you want to learn more about spotting that mask of modesty, you're definitely going to want to watch the video that just popped up on the screen. And if you like this one, don't forget to hit the like button before you go, and I'll see you next time.